part 7 of the IPL auction predictions preview. And we start with Chennai Super Kings, an aging team. We've finally let go of some of the aging players. They have 22.9 crores in the budget. I just want to throw this out there first and foremost. Do they go and buy Steve Smith? Because maybe Dhoni, it might be Dhoni's last year, and he could be someone that could be captaining the Chennai side for a couple of years to come. So should they just go all out for Steve Smith? Nako, I'll start with you.
How many more accumulators does CSK need? It's probably emerged somewhat in a number of these IPL team previews that I don't believe that Stephen Smith is an elite T20 player, and I'm basing that on partly observation, but also numbers, and particularly numbers crunched by people who understand the numbers more than I do. It would be a very CSK profile pick in a number of ways, get the super giant band back together kind of deal. But I don't think it would be a smart option for CSK. There's loads of guys in that team that have got leadership experience. You could go to DJ Bravo for a year if you wanted to. You could go to Faf du Plessis if you wanted to. There's other guys who you can groom there for potential experience. Jadeja's never actually captained a team before, but he's someone you could see captaining a team if you wanted that to be the case.
Suresh is back as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, and he was a huge miss. I think he was the player who was most missed by any team last year in IPL 2020. More so than Malinga was missed by Mumbai or whoever else, or more so than Narain not being available for large parts of the season. They missed that explosiveness in the top order. They missed someone who could take some of the weight off Shane Watson, who's now retired after his incredible career. So if you're CSK, I think your bowling's pretty much fine. Seam and spin bowling. I mean, you've got someone like Imran Tahir who you're not using. I think you're doing okay in terms of your bowling. So what you're looking for is power at the top of the order. It was meant to be Ruturaj Gaikwad. It didn't really work out for him. They ended up using Sam Curran at the top of the order, which did reasonably well. But I think you want ideally an Indian powerful top order batter, of whom there are not many around right now who aren't already taken.
Yeah, Abhimanyu, you mentioned a few Indian names in the past who've done well in Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy. Considering the budget's not the highest, it's 22.9, which is around the middle. Is that something they can look at? The auction is some Indian picks that have done well in the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy.
Someone like Kedar Devdar, who was captaining Baroda in the absence of Ronald Pandya, he could come in because he offers some depth in the opening order. And after that, there could be the names that I've already spoken about, Shah Rukh Khan and Avi Barot. Both of those players can definitely add some value to the side if you're talking about Indian players. If you're trying to replace someone like Shane Watson, I would say look at someone like Glenn Maxwell maybe.
Yeah, I'll come to you now, Greg. Is Jason Roy someone that could be reunited with Chennai Super Kings? He's stuck, is he? He's stuck again. Wait, you're back.
Frozen again. I'm back.
Could you hear my question?
No.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, I can. Right, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Chennai Super Kings, sorry.
Yeah, I said, is Jason Roy someone that could be replacing Shane Watson and reunite at Chennai Super Kings?
Yeah, he's a potential option. I think there is probably is a slot for an overseas player. I think Curran will be one of them. Faf will be the second, and then probably DJ Bravo. And then, as you say, Nicole, if you're not using Tahir, then that opens up a slot at the top that could have Jason Roy's name on it. I'm glad you described Shane Watson's career as incredible, because I think he's very underestimated and underrated a career from an English point of view. His numbers are pretty special, but we'll stop chiming on about him for now. But yeah, I think there is definitely a slot in the middle to top order. Jason Roy could fit in there, and I think Abhimanyu said Shah Rukh Khan could be a good option. A Tamil Nadu player could come into the Chennai side and maybe provide you with an off-spinning option as well.
ready-made marketing campaign there with the fact that he shares his name with India's most famous actor. For sure. I like the idea of Jason Roy at the top of the order for Chennai. Obviously, Maxwell would be someone who could provide some dynamism and some youth, and some. And he's not that young, but some dynamism and some energy and some life into that middle order. But Maxwell's likely to be very expensive, and also you probably don't need another spin bowling option. Although that said, actually, if the IPL does go ahead with everyone playing in their home grounds, Maxwell could be a pretty useful option at Chepauk.
Yeah, and another person who obviously they missed last season, didn't play, I think, because of injury, was Lungi and Giri. Is that maybe having him fit, does that cover Chennai Super Kings in the sense that they almost don't need to go out and buy anyone, Nako?
Oh, in terms of a bowler, I think you're fine. Ngidi would be in one of my first choice options as an overseas guy. I think actually the guy I'd be probably looking to phase out is DJ Bravo. Not phase out in terms of him not playing every game, because there's going to be some rotation. But I would like to see the overseas players of Faf, Karan, Tahir, and Lungi Ngidi. Ngidi can do a little bit of what Rabada and what Jofra Archer were able to do in the IPL last year for Delhi and for Rajasthan, and he provides you that X factor bowler who can take wickets at any stage of the innings and balance that attack nicely with Shadur Thakur and Deepak Chahar as the Indian fast bowlers. I mean, that's a pretty handy attack if you then throw in kind of any number of spinners that you care to name with Chennai. I mean, one guy who actually I thought they also really underused last year was Mitchell Santner. With both bat and ball. I remember in 2019 he had a couple of brilliant games in Chepauk. He bowled one spell that was absolutely unplayable at Chepauk, where the ball was turning square. So I think he was underused. So I think you know Faf is probably in there, Sam Curran is probably in there, and then you're looking to get a bit more out of Santner and Ngidi next season.
So then, sorry, go on, Abhimanyu.
I think the problem that Chennai was facing last season was they built their squad solely on the basis of playing at Chepauk. And when it got shifted to the UAE, they faced a lot of problems, and that's the reason probably Mitchell Santner, someone like Lungi Ngidi couldn't do well. They weren't given enough chances to probably perform and prove their point.
Yeah, so if your Chennai Super Kings is team management, and I'll start with you, Greg, what are the places you'd be looking to cover, and who are the people you will earmark as a Chennai management?
I think, as Knuckles said, your bowling's more or less covered. I think you're looking for someone in that maybe either at the top. I know Gaikwad did come pretty nice at the end. So maybe if they continue with him, maybe then you're looking at maybe a 3 or 4 slot with Raina coming back. Where MS wants to bat is anyone's guess, really, between 4, 5 and 6. So yeah, someone in that kind of middle to top order. We've mentioned Jason Roy. Perhaps they'll be in the David Malan race, or maybe Alex Hales as well up there. I think all those 3 are fairly similar options. But yeah, maybe Shahrukh Khan, as we see on pretty well in this side, Mushtaq Ali, he could be the option that you're looking for if you're wanting a more homegrown player.
Yeah, of course, they've also let Kedar Jadhav go, who obviously didn't do well last year, but up to last season, until before last season, he'd been doing quite well for Chennai, batting at 6, 7, finishing off those innings. I, for one, remember one of the innings where he was injured and came back to win them one of the playoff games, I think it was. And
That was the first game against Mumbai Indians.
Yeah,
the first game of the 2019 season.
Yeah, first game of the 2019 season. So obviously he has been an integral part of Chennai while they were doing well. And of course they've let him go. So who should they be looking at in the auction to replace him in that lower middle order slot? Nako?
You've kind of got them already, though, don't you? You've got Sam Curran, you've got Ravindra Jadeja, you've got DJ Bravo, and you've got Mitchell Santner as potential options. I think you're pretty well covered for all-rounders who can bat in those positions. One guy we haven't mentioned, and it's yet another English option, is another former CSK guy in Sam Billings. Brilliant player of spin, reverse sweeps well, has started to score hundreds for England, did very well in the last summer season, and he's also in that sort of 2 crore bracket alongside Roy, a little bit more expensive than David Malan and Alex Hales. But I think he fits quite well with the culture of CSK, and he knows the team. They're another team who up until recently haven't wanted to rock the boat. I think it's probably not a good sign that we're mentioning so many potential names here. It's also worth pointing out that Josh Hazelwood was a huge disappointment for CSK last year. Someone who could have worked out quite well. I still think he could on other wickets and give them a bit more of an option away from Chepok if they want to go for that extra seamer. But actually, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I think that Billings might be the smarter option, and in many ways, the more CSK option. And I mean that in a good way.
Yeah, of course, and obviously this was the first year that Chennai missed out on the playoffs in the entire history of the IPL. So, do you reckon it's also a case of people overreacting, and because they missed Raina and Ngidi in the IPL last year, is it just a case of they built a team for India, the IPL moved to UAE, and so they are not too concerned as a franchise as much as we are from the outside looking into their franchise? Abhimanyu, what do you
But
think?
I think that depends on if they are actually going to play a chipper. That's still not decided. That's still not certain. There are rumors of IPL being held at neutral venues, and if that happens, then they might have to look at other options. I would say someone that we've not mentioned that they've already retained is Narayan Jagdishan. He had an extremely good Syed Mustaq Ali trophy, and I feel he could probably fill that spot in the middle order and add and give that overseas spot to someone like probably, as you said, Jason Roy or someone like Sam Billings.
Yeah, Jagdishan became quite useful towards the end of last year when they finally Jagdishan and Gaikwad sort of got let off the leash a little bit when the season was over. But I do think that Abhimanyu's right. I think there needs to be a little bit more flexibility without tossing everything out, because there is that danger of overreacting, and I think it's been to Chennai's advantage over the last many years, a little bit like Mumbai, is that they've been incredibly settled and they've known how they wanted to play. But I think you do need to have a little bit of an eye to what happens if we're not able to play most of our games in Chennai or half our games in Chennai. So no, you have to be a little bit smarter with how you construct that auction, and just have those guys who can fill in a little bit more. But yeah, I think we were all kind of thinking that it's going to be an overseas top to middle order batter that CSK want to go for.
Yeah, and again, last question on Chennai before I move on. Same as always, I'll start with you, Greg. 22.9 CR in the bank. You're the Chennai board. Who are you going to buy in the auction?
I really do like the case for Sam Billings, but I think we might have the winner of the David Malan race.
Abhimanyu?
Someone at the top, an overseas player at the top. David Malan, Jason Roy, Sam Billings, any of the three that you get. I think Chennai would be happy with that.
Nako?
I think they should go for Sam Billings. I think they will go for David Malan.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll wait and find out who Chennai actually end up getting in the auction, because it seems like between Jason Roy, Billings, and Malan, there'll be a lot of bidders for those three.